Welcome to another episode of the Growth League podcast. I'm here with my guest, Julia Thomas. She's the Director of Marketing and Business Development at Dean Mead. And she's, I think, currently in Florida. And where are you, Julia?
I'm actually in one of our other offices in Vieira, Melbourne, but
Okay.
I'm typically headquartered in Central Florida in Orlando.
Okay.
Mhm.
Well, we were just talking about the temperature variance between me and you right now, and not
Yeah,
happy. Julia, welcome to the show. Happy to have you.
happy to be here. Mhm.
So let's set some context for the audience. Your journey in a nutshell, sort of the summary, like from how did it start as a marketer? How has it turned into now you're leading the marketing function at Dean Mead? Give us some background on your journey so far.
So, quick high level, this is as quick as I can go because it's over 20 years long. So I'll fast forward. I actually fell into marketing. I initially wanted to go into veterinary science at the University of Florida, but was really tired of school. So I ended up majoring in advertising, then going on for a master's degree. And then my first position was actually at a construction firm in DC leading their marketing. So that just gives you some context as to how long I've been doing this. But it evolved from that into leading efforts at a regional marketing firm, a contemplation of a PhD, which came and left very quickly, and then jumping into global communications and global marketing efforts, and then finding my sweet spot back here at Dean Mead. And I love the firm, love regional marketing, and actually really love working with attorneys. If you can imagine, they're great people.
Well, you told me on our first chat that even though there's a lean marketing team, everyone's on your team because you kind of have embraced this idea of marketing is the core of the organization and almost the mirror sometimes to the public about who we are and what we do and what's unique about us. So let me ask you this, Julia, like what excites you? What fills your cup about leading a marketing function today? Why is that what you've decided to spend your 40 hours a week or more probably on?
I love to get professionals excited about marketing and helping them realize, to your point, Caleb, that everyone has a role and responsibility in it. So I'm a team of one, to your point, at the firm. However, I'm actually a team of 100 and something because everyone that works for Dean Mead represents Dean Mead. So when I can get them really into that moment, understanding that moment, and coming to me going, okay, I know what you mean. So I'm going to head out to a networking event and I'm going to get engaged and I'm going to follow up and you see that light bulb turn on. I love that because then that's when we really get to really spark creativity in marketing and really support business development efforts.
I'm the same as you. I love when I can see the light bulb go on in the non-marketers' heads. And
Yes.
just because they're non-marketers, we have to understand and I think remember that when we're talking with and working with technical experts or professional experts, they have a zone of genius that is needs to be told and needs to be amplified and needs to be woven
Yes.
into the. So I love that.
And when you
Um,
can merge the two, it's so much fun. And
isn't that
perhaps that's why I really truly enjoy working with attorneys, is to your point, they're very technical, very focused on their discipline. But when we can take that technical discipline and marry it with marketing and day in, day out communications, it is truly a wonderful experience to do it. And I truly enjoy it.
I love it.
Mhm. Yeah.
So, from your perspective, like, how would you describe what you get paid to do today? What's your mandate? What is your accountability? How would you describe that?
My, that's a great question. Actually a proponent that we all actually do the same job. We're just under different titles. And what I mean by that is we're all people communicators. No matter what we do in our profession and our discipline, we all talk to people, we all manage people, and then we manage process and completion of that process. So at our core, we're all doing the same job. We just do it just a little bit differently. So in my realm, I do all of that on top of managing websites, firm communication, strategic planning, and everything under the sun when you think of marketing.
So it's
But
definitely
when it
more than
really
40
gets down
hours a
to,
week.
yeah, just a little bit more than 40 hours a week. But when it comes right down to it, I have great conversations. So I can't put that on a job description or say I necessarily get paid for that.
Yeah,
But the better and the greater conversations I have, the more successful I am in marketing.
yeah.
And that's really the key to it.
I,
Sounds
I
so simple.
no, I love the approach and the way of playing the game. What for those that think in terms of like a little bit more black and white and binary, like from a business perspective, is it
Mhm.
is it a lead generation mandate? Is a entering new markets awareness mandate? What is the thing that maybe shows up on some of the
Mhm.
financial sheets that you hope to have some impact on?
Very, very good question. At present, so I set my own marketing goals for the, to actually help support the firm's business development and growth efforts.
Okay.
So really what those three things are is they're focused on effective communication, effective use of budget in supporting that communication and driving accountability into that budget.
Okay.
So for example, it's not just going to a golf going to play golf with some friends. It's
Yeah.
going to play golf with friends who are actually channels and operators that can return that budget back.
Yeah.
So those are the three main components. Now that includes, of course, to your binary listeners, that includes the press releases, advertisements,
Right.
website design, website communications. A big part of it is brand awareness, particularly within a law firm that has 5 industries and over 20 some practice areas.
Yeah.
Helping our markets and our potential clients understand what do we mean by, I don't know, land use. What does
Right.
that mean? And being able to help translate that, it goes that granular.
So
Mhm.
you're it's unique, and I guess it would be considered a superpower for many. This ability to probably multiple times a day go back and forth between the clouds and the dirt, and sometimes you're doing the blocking and tackling, and sometimes you have to sit and think and
Yes,
build.
yes.
So, what's been your recipe in terms of being able to successfully go back and forth between the clouds and the dirt in that regard?
I love to learn. That's how I fell into marketing versus going back into veterinary science.
Right.
So I'm not one that really likes to focus in on one specific discipline. So being able to have a conversation, just for example, today with a litigation attorney around gracious, what were his words? Demand letters. Sounds so exciting, but actually it's really
Exhilarating.
exciting. Jumping into that versus into a land use conversation versus agritourism, jumping from that back into a employment law piece. And it's only 1:30 Eastern time.
Yeah.
And I've already done that within 6 hours of, coming into the office and getting work done.
Yes.
So it's really that focus on learning and being curious, that sense of curiosity that we had when we were kids.
Well,
Um, I never left it. I'm curious about how things work. And that's really what has been a key to my success in the profession.
okay, Peter Pan. I love it.
I know, right?
No,
It's
no, I love that. And so there are folks I think that are in similar situations as you and still have that passion. And I think that there's a curiosity amongst our audience of how do you get a lot of stuff done that creates impact when you have a very real capacity constraint. So talk to me about how do you live into a scenario in which you have a constraint around capacity, and how do you kind of play your role and navigate within that?
It's so I fight two fights on a daily basis. One is the fact that the day only encompasses about 16 hours total, because you do have to sleep and you need to do other things to, get that quote work-life balance, whatever that looks like for you.
Yeah.
But then I also combat what's called a billable hour. So working in professional services to be able to work with an attorney and take them away from a billable hour into a non-billable marketing hour, that's a challenge.
Right.
So those are the two pieces. So being able to bounce back and forth and prioritize according to what the firm's needs are and the attorney practice needs are. And again, back to that sense of curiosity, that's what keeps me going and that's what keeps me engaged. And that's what helps me keep the attorneys engaged as well.
Right. So when there's what I'm hearing, when there's a very real cost
Yeah.
associated with bringing experts into your office to chop something up, I would
Mhm.
imagine you gotta be pretty organized and well planned before you call on that resource.
Absolutely.
Not
Absolutely. And
having like brainstorm sessions out of nowhere, right?
And that should be the expectation. So somebody who's new to this profession or interested in it should really dive in, again, exploring that sense of curiosity before you have that initial conversation with a professional. So
Yeah.
then you're already not, quote, necessarily speaking their language, but you are familiar with what they're doing from a practice perspective and therefore able to engage them more effectively and efficiently, both for your time and theirs.
So what if what if as marketing leaders we could pretend that the stakeholders and constituents inside our organization who we need to get support from, what if we pretended they had billable hours and treated it as no different? I think a lot of times I've seen marketing leaders just borrow resources because they're there, and who doesn't love a good brainstorming session? But you have a very real constraint around just being able to pull willy-nilly.
Yes, I do. But and that I would say, Caleb, is necessarily potentially a challenge for new marketers to really wrap their heads
Yeah.
around.
Yeah.
Is yes, we come out of college and we have this grandiose vision about public relations and advertising and design work and all that such. But in reality, the future of marketing, in my opinion, is business.
Yeah.
Because the quicker we understand the power of business and how business works, and how we can draw that line to how marketing can complement that business, the more effective we're going to be in our positions, and also the more successful we're going to be as well.
I love
Because
it.
we're actually providing value to the growth more effectively than saying, hey, I can go to a social media post, not understanding that's not going to work.
Right.
How do you make those connections quicker and more efficiently?
It sounds like based on that mindset, you're able to combat the pain associated with random acts of marketing, not just doing things for the sake of doing them, but I guess you understand that business is marketing and marketing is business. And for it to not be a cost center, instead it needs to be an investment center, which means it needs to be rooted into the fundamentals of business.
You've got it. You've got it. We are responsible for our own ROI, and anybody who is part of an overhead, to your point, a cost center for an organization should be defending. Why am I here? Why is my knowledge base needed? Why do I need to have others on my team? Why do I need to leverage that billable hour for non-billable hour, knowing I can return it threefold? How taking on that mindset is an important mindset to really adopt. Earlier in your career, the better.
I have a tough one for you, Julia.
Yeah, I'll take it.
What would have to happen for you to get fired? So if you got fired, what happened probably?
I didn't come to work. I don't even know. I don't know. Probably I would know it before they did, Caleb, because I wouldn't be meeting the goals that I set for marketing. I would know it before they did. I would probably fire myself, because my expectation of myself is higher than those of the professionals around me.
Yeah.
So by setting those goals, they're stretch goals.
Yeah.
And I love to meet the stretch goals. Perhaps the other component of success is a little bit of competitive spirit.
Sure.
But I would know it before they did. Because
I
wasn't meeting those goals. I wasn't the right professional for the position within the organization. I wasn't meeting the needs of the organization, and therefore kick me to the curb. I guess you perhaps learn that in your career is when you first start, you're terrified of getting fired. And then perhaps as you get older, if you're a good fit or not, and if you're not benefiting the organization, it's not a win-win for both of you. So kick yourself to the curb and go find the win-win,
I love that. That's true ownership of encounter. And obviously, I'm joking. You're not going to get fired, but I think having that mindset, and when you play scared,
yeah,
it's not gonna work out well for anyone either way. So
it's not.
Let's go to your superpower. Like, what would you be comfortable sharing, Julia? Is you consider a superpower of yours as a marketing leader? Something that maybe others in the firm would say, "Dang, or something that you pull out often out of your pocket because it's tried and true. This is my superpower." What is that for you?
I never realized. I love that question because I've never been asked it, and I actually didn't realize really what it was until I attended a Legal Marketing Association regional conference just this past year, where we had to identify our superpowers.
Oh, nice.
And I didn't realize it was a superpower until I realized not everyone in the room, in fact, no one else in the room would do it. And that is that I'll confront the elephant in the room. So I will literally go into a conversation, and the sooner we confront the larger issue for why we're not moving forward and address that issue head on, the sooner we can move forward.
Totally.
And that is my apparent superpower, is I don't mind walking in and having an honest, actual, real conversation to help move the ball forward.
Hmm.
And I enjoy that. I think that's probably why I get along very well with litigators, because they like to debate, and so do I. It's a fun conversation. But I believe that's probably my superpower. My sub superpower is a connector.
Yeah,
I'm
okay.
I'm great at seeing connections between people, between conversations, between theory and actuality. So I'm good at drawing those dotted lines and seeing those connections before they're actually real connections.
That's
So I
awesome.
love being a connector.
That's good. Why do you think it's so hard for going back to your main superpower?
Mhm.
Why do you think it's so hard for so many of us to, be kind and be compassionate, but address the elephant in the room? Is that
Well, because we're being open and honest with ourselves as well. So, for example, going into a conversation with another professional to have an honest conversation about what's going on, we're opening up some vulnerabilities that we may not necessarily want to open up. Me, on the other hand, I'm an open book. I tell everybody I'm 99%, will tell you anything. The 1% I don't even want to know.
right?
So, and I do that because whatever I can do to help, I'll do it. And so I believe that that probably is something that can sort of cause some hesitation with some professionals, is when you go into those conversations, you need to be able to admit, you might be wrong.
Right.
And I'm the first one to say, I could be completely off base here. My gosh, if I am, let me know now so we can fix it now and we can
Huh.
move forward. Otherwise, we're not going to go anywhere,
Yeah.
So let's get there faster. Let's get there more efficiently. So I'm after the elephant. Mhm.
So how do you think that that level of comfort is ingrained in you? Is it purely about tenure? Is it about being really sure of plans and strategies? Like,
Mhm.
is that comfort innate or is it engineered?
Oh, it's a great question. I don't know. I don't know the right answer to it. I can tell you that I've had some wonderful mentors throughout my career that have helped encourage that. So have helped encourage my willingness, I guess is the word, to really own the room. I
Yeah.
mean, I can pinpoint it back to one conversation with a prior manager that said, every meeting you join, no matter what you believe your role is, be prepared to lead it. And that advice has carried me a very long way, because in order to do that, you have to understand everyone's role in the room and really everyone's stake in that conversation.
Ah,
So I think that perhaps is something that's truly influenced the ability to walk in there and understanding all of those roles, is then being able to have an honest conversation about where do we go next.
I love it.
So both mentor and perhaps a little bit of pushing and prodding and kicking at the same time.
Yeah. And lots of failure and lots of experience. Help.
Yes, yes, everybody goes through it, but truly having an advocate for you that literally does figuratively and sometimes literally have your back in that room, you get that one time and you build your confidence pretty darn quick.
I love it.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah.
so cool. What's your Achilles heel that you'd be willing to admit as an area you want to improve as a leader?
I don't care if there's 16 hours in a workday, I'm going to work 24.
Yeah.
Both the passion for what I do is also the crutch, that helps me not do other things. So I'm honest in the fact that, which is why I did the air quotes for work-life balance, is even when I go home, Caleb, I'm still reading and I'm still learning, and I don't turn off the switch. It's part of just who I am.
Right.
So I had one professional come in and actually say, Julia, we need to work on your work-life balance. And my comment was, oh, I've worked on it. I'm where I'm balanced.
Yeah.
Um,
Balance.
but that is a challenge. That's the Achilles heel, is it's very challenging for me to turn off that focus and that innate sense, even when I'm on vacation, not thinking, ooh, if we transition that practice area into this, we could actually serve that industry group, and getting that idea from over here. It's very, very difficult for me to turn off.
So in this situation, wouldn't it make sense? Now, I know there's lots of reasons and rationale why we don't do things, but wouldn't this be the natural time to like hire a couple folks?
Perhaps, yeah, perhaps. And that is something in the future that is definitely planned for it. But a big part I see in onboarding a professional to your team is understanding the responsibility you have for that team member. So it's not just hiring in an FTE full-time equivalent or an HR speak level.
Right.
It's hiring in a talent that you're going to help both support and nurture. So having that role defined and having that path sort of started to lay out is going to help ensure that the professional that comes on board is set up for success.
Totally.
So that is an important piece to me. Every time I hire somebody, I step back and ensure that that's in place. Otherwise, I'm not going to hire.
It makes sense. It's a burden that you carry, a responsibility that you see, but you're a natural leader. So I'm excited to see that.
You're
And
lovely to say that. I don't necessarily see myself as a natural leader. I just see myself as the one that'll go after the elephant and want to help people succeed. And I've never really enveloped the concept of leadership and being the leader. I'm the one who's the here's the football speak. Sorry, NFL, American football speak for your listeners. But
that's the only football I acknowledge is
there
American.
you go. I'm willing. I will be the quarterback, the defense. The receiver. Heck, I'll be the coach, or for that matter, I'll be the fan. Whatever you need me to be in that stadium in that role, I'll take on that responsibility and I'll do it to the best of my ability. If that makes me a good leader, sweet. But more
Yeah,
importantly, if it helps you succeed as someone I'm working with and helping to support, even better. That gets me excited.
so I think you just defined leadership, Julia. So we'll have a separate
Yeah.
conversation with that. Um, so there's certain things that metrics or KPIs that I'm sure you look at to kind of like see if we're progressing as compared to the goals that were set. But is there something that when you're driving home at the end of the day or you shut your laptop that you rely on as more of a felt feeling to tell you whether or not, hey, I did a good job today or this week or this quarter? What do you rely on that's not showing up on a spreadsheet or a chart?
Your group will laugh. So live time, I didn't know you were gonna ask me this question, but I rely on these little things called Post-it notes.
Yeah.
And what I do on those Post-it notes is, I write legibly, clearly legibly. But every day that I come in, I review the Post-it note that I wrote the night before. And those are my main points that I want to get accomplished that day. Now, I'm not going to say I'm successful in it every day. Sometimes, at the end of the day, I look at the Post-it note and I go, okay, did my best, put the same Post-it note back up.
Right.
But that's a soft reminder for me to keep moving the needle forward, to keep pushing forward, to get things accomplished, is those little teeny Post-it notes.
I love that.
They're not overwhelming to me. And again, you have to write legibly because I
Yeah.
have tried to trick myself and write really small. But they are the ones that are the constant reminder that keep me moving forward and keep me accountable for myself and the goals that I've set for the firm and for the team.
I love that. It's funny because I also use that tactic and I'd never heard anyone else using it. And
Yeah. Mhm.
there's two things, and maybe you can relate, but one of them was that when I started that practice, kind of like, I don't know if you're aware of Parkinson's law, but Parkinson's law is that as
Mhm.
humans, if we have a container X big, we will fill it naturally. We won't. So what I ended up doing is just writing too many things, right? And so every day I was kind of let down in myself or whatever. So you got to be realistic with what. And then the second thing I started doing to really kind of create that um, shift of character, like, okay, I'm taking my cloak off now and I'm going in to be dad or husband or whatever, is when that's done, it's a rip up or it's a crumple up and throw away, and it's like complete. So
Isn't that the best? Like, here's my Post-it notes from 2 days ago, and they're like torn up and like I'm ready to toss them. And those are that to your point, I had to redraft a few on this new Post-it note, but that's a good little feeling to be able
I
to
love
rip
that.
those up and throw them
It's a
away.
great hack. What is Julia today telling Julia 20 years ago? That you got 5 minutes with her,
Mhm.
and her 20 years ago wants to, accelerate and grow as a marketing leader. Is there one or two things you might say, hey, by the way?
There's one thing, and I'm going to misquote it all the way, but it actually came from a University of Central Florida coach, and the comment was, and again, I'm going to misquote this, but it's very similar to this. They always tell you to climb the corporate ladder. They forget to tell you to get off when you're ready.
Right.
And so 20 years ago, pursuing an undergraduate degree and then a master's degree, I was ready to jump in to corporate marketing and make the mark on day one and then build the ladder and be the SVP and get up to that corporate echelon, that I really, really, really wanted to be.
Yeah.
And then when I was almost there, I realized 15 years later, that's not where I wanted to be. So if I could go back to that 20 years ago professional and be able to provide that advice, is to be able to say, keep going in your career, but once you're happy,
Yeah.
stop
I love
and
it.
build that happiness. And that would be it.
I love that. It's a great, great message. You probably quoted it right, but
I'll get you the quote.
well, I really appreciate you showing and talking about the way that you're navigating this game because it is a game and it's a fun game. And how you maybe are subconsciously acting like a leader, but you are, and creating belief
Yeah.
around a company of people that maybe didn't think that what they had to say was important or that their input was important. And I just think that it's such a good message for those listening. So I appreciate you sharing your perspective.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Anytime.
Everyone, my guest, Julia Thomas, thank you so much.
Thank you.